What's up, guys? We're back with some more Run 8 Train Simulator action. We're once again on the A724 heading up the Fitzgerald Sub. It's the early 2000s, and the A723, A724 service back then was basically a feeder train between Waycross and Manchester, and all it did was just supply cars to the various locals along the Fitzgerald Sub. So we're talking Fitzgerald, Cordele, and Oglethorpe. Going north, they would set cars out, and then they would turn and come back south and they would pick up cars. So that was basically the gist of what they did. Believe it or not, like all the times I interacted with it, which was basically in meets and stuff like that, the 724, 723 was always a pretty hot train because they had a lot of territory to cover and a lot of work to do. And I don't ever remember that train going in the hole for me a single time. I think I always went in the hole for him. Like the times that I can remember, I definitely remember sitting and waiting on him at Lily one time. I absolutely remember sitting and waiting on him for a good while there. But yeah, I know I met him a few times. I don't ever remember going in the hole for this guy. I think they were always really pressed for time. They may have worked some outlying places too, like some of the small mom and pop. Maybe some places down around Saginaw or Systems. I can't remember. I'm not 100% positive on that job. Like I said, my interactions with that train are very limited, other than just meeting and waving at them going down the tracks. But yeah, we're back in early 2000s. We're going to run it the way it was back then. This train has been gone for a long time, for several years. I know for a while I think they did away with it and changed it up on the Fitzgerald Sub. I don't know what they changed it to. And then they started running it over on the bow line out of Waycross towards Thomasville, and that way, I guess. So I'm not, it definitely went through some changes, and that's par for the course of railroads, you know, like these symbols, they come and go all the time. They're constantly, some of them have some longevity to them. A few that I can think of that had like a really long period of time where they were unchanged and pretty stable would be like the 647. 647 running from Chicago to Waycross. That train was around intact in that form, doing the same thing for decades. The 647 was regular for decades. 685, 684 would be another one. There's others out there too, you know. But all right, we're a 50-mile-an-hour train. Actually, let's come back out on that a little bit there. So we'll get up here to Fitzgerald, and we'll see about making this set out. It's a pretty sizable cut for Fitzgerald. I'm not, oh, we never talked to, we do have a light, but we need to talk to Otto. Yeah, we lucked out on that. We'll kind of slow up a little bit here. We'll treat it as if it's legit. That's right, because I think on the last video we had the distant and we had like an advanced approach or something. So okay, this totally makes sense as far as what's going on. All right, I got an approach. I don't know, did he ever talk back to us? Did I even turn him on? Because I don't know. I've had to start this video a few times this morning, and sometimes it gets really confusing as far as like what I have and have not done when things don't go right or the way you want them to, and you have to do multiple takes. It really jacks you up. I hate it, but I think we're good now. I think we're set. Proceed on signal indication. Okay, so he says... Yeah, there we go. There we go. We got our lights, so we're good. We're good. Let's carry on. Train stats. 2.4 HPT, 5,100 tons, 26 loads, 49 empties, 44.77 on the length. So, decent train, not too bad. All right, so I know we got that 592 ahead of us. We had to delete the train at Ogerfield because once again he was bugged out. Yeah, okay, we've got a little separation. I know when we're following behind him, it looked like we're going to kind of run on some color. We got the 660 up here, and then there's literally nothing else along the way. So it should be a relatively good trip. Trying to think, what do we got? We've got Upton, Ogerfield, and then Fitzgerald. I don't know if we're gonna be able to make that set out today. We could do a longer video and do a set out, or we could do a regular like 45-minute video somewhere around there and not do the set out. We may, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see, we'll just go with it. We'll play it by ear. The 620 mileposts there. These, I don't know if we've ever talked about those before, but the mileposts along the Fitz, basically all these former Atlantic coastline routes, those things are concrete and they're huge, and there's so much more of them underground than than what you see like above ground. It's the same thing with those whistle posts. They're really big. They're stupid heavy. I want to say I heard someone say that the whistle posts were like 600 pounds or something like that of concrete. Maybe, maybe not. I think they're just rare for collectors to have because they are so big and bulky and heavy and all that stuff. I would love to have one. If I could have one, I would be all about it. Yeah, I got to clear by north end of Saginaw. Trying to think back of grades and stuff along the route through here. I'll be the first to tell you I don't know it 100%. I know it's relatively flat. It's just really undulating with a lot of hogbacks and riprap, whatever you want to call that stuff. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I barely touched it and it just notched out on me. Let's go back. Yeah, that's not exactly what I was wanting. That's the biggest downside to the rail driver is just that finicky throttle. Man, I wish there was a way you could make this thing like notched. Something. Somehow. At some point I thought about doing some kind of like little rubber grommet that had notches cut out in it, so it has little pieces that you kind of go through and then you get to the easy part, you know, but because the notches aren't evenly spaced from 0 to 8, that won't really work, I don't think. Unfortunately. Like, that's the thing, is like some of your notch travel is like real excessive and others are like really close together. Let's do shift F8 so we can see some of these locations and road crossings, that sort of thing. Seems like there's a pretty decent sag through here. I think there's a bridge up here, maybe. We'll see what she does. Because she is so short, she's going to be a little bit of a bowling ball. So when you do get on a grade, she's going to take off on you. When you get on a good uphill, she's going to slow down. You don't have all that length to kind of average out. That's why I've always said like a really long train with DPU can be super easy to run because it averages out so well over the grades, and you've got the DPU to help, you know, pump your air up and, you know, actuate your brakes and everything from the bottom. So it happens a lot faster. I think that's a whistle post for the bridge. We're not going to abide by that. Yeah, here's a pretty good dip through here, I think, and then it's going to pick right back up. We're going to go with it. We'll take a few. As long as you don't get crazy fast on us. A pretty good dip right here. Yeah, you could definitely. You can see the hogbacks. And this is the older section of the railroad, so they didn't do nearly as much grading when they built this segment. So it's going to have a lot more extreme changes as far as of the grades in the terrain and stuff like that, versus the northern end, which was built much later by a different construction engineer. So that was Bonnyman, Alexander Bonnyman's the one that built the north end. Where did he start at up there? Shoot, I can't remember exactly where he started, but he built the north end of the Fitz. He went to Atlanta and he went to Birmingham. He did both those two. Really, really well constructed lines for the early 1900s. You know, 1904, 5, 6. Need to go back and read up on that guy some more. He's the one that had the son that got the Medal of Honor in World War II in the Pacific Theater. I think he was a Marine. A little bit of up and down up there. Not too terribly bad. Keeps it interesting though. It's definitely not one of those routes where you just put it in number 8 and let it do its thing and hit the alerter. You know, which this is honestly like, this is my kind of running. The AGS is the same way. It has a lot of up and down too. It's just the nature of the routes, nature of, you know, southeast or east versus west. There, I got to clear by trailer park here. Trying to watch, see what she does. Looks like she's wanting to slow up a little bit here. Looks like it's a little bit of a dip and then through the curve and then back up again, maybe. All right, I think we're coming into Douglas. Got all these 50 bazillion road crossings up here. Man, this thing would be so much easier to run though if you just knew, if you had a way of knowing I want to go straight to 4 and I can just do it and you don't have to hunt around and feel for it and that sort of thing. It would be so much easier. Yeah, we're coming in. This is Douglas up here. There's a video on YouTube of 121 Q121 back in the day. I don't know when it happened, but there's a in-cab cam of them derailing up here at Douglas. I want to say it was somewhere right around here. Right here in this curve. I got way slow now. Wasn't paying attention to that. I was trying to figure out where exactly in there they derailed, but yeah, it may have been up here right in the start of that curve there. I think they got on the ground and then they derailed on this switch up here, and then by the time they got up there to the curve, they went in the ditch. Something like that. It's something that happened up here. Douglas may have been one of those outlying areas that the 723, 724 works. Because I want to say that the local out of Fitzgerald turned at Upton. I remember when I worked the feeder train out of Birmingham to Talladega, the 734, 735. We had a couple outlying areas that we worked to, basically between Talladega and Birmingham. And one was at Chelsea and one was at Pelham, Alabama. And they were super, super rare to work. I think I worked each of them one time out of all the times I caught those trains. One time. It wasn't very regular. One place, let's see, the place around Chelsea was some kind of lumber yard. And every once in a while you would take a center beam in there too, but it wasn't very often at all. That's like a lot of the lumber yards that we had weren't ever regular switches. It was like at least the ones that I have experience with, I don't remember any of them being a regular switch. It's like you just go in there once in a blue moon, take them a center beam, and then you don't hear from them again for a while. Like I don't ever remember going into a lumber yard like weekly or anything like that. It was like once a month maybe, if even that much. And the other place up at Pelham was a concrete casting place. I think they did like culverts and stuff like that maybe. I went in there one time too. That was when I was cubbing. We went in there. Then all the other times never did anything. Never saw a lot of cars sitting in there or anything. I think they just ordered when they needed it, and then that was it. So yeah, I kind of wondered if it's the same way on this the 723, 724. Coming to Upton here. Wonder, can we see both ends? Can I this? Yeah. Here we go. Clear by Upton. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I kind of wonder if the Fitzgerald local was the A726, if they went to Douglas or if they turned in Upton. I thought they turned in Upton, but I could very well be mistaken on that. But you know, that's honestly, like, that's not one I ever remember hearing much from when I went down this way. Like, I don't honestly remember a single instance where I ran into the 726 down here. I mean, you know, they were working. They had plenty of industries and stuff to do, but I just don't remember running into them down here. That's a little bit of a knot right here. So far, it's a good train. I've enjoyed it. It's fun to run. It gets over the road pretty quick, good power, not very long, not draggy. She'll go. Got like a car lot, or a scrapyard or something over there. All right, so we're through Upton. Next stop is Ozerfield, and then finally Fitzgerald. Another little bit of a knot here. Peanut Place, back over to the left. I don't think that was there back in the day. I think that was one of the newer places. Tremendous amount of agriculture on the Fitzgerald Sub, though, that's for sure. I think someone had asked in a comment a while back, I never got around to answering it, but they asked about blowing the horn. I think it was something to the effect of all the guys that I work with, did they do the long, long, short, long? Because they'd seen videos where they did different. Yeah, I think for the most part they did. I think some did some variations of it, especially when you had like quillable horns and stuff like that, you know, where they could actually like really work the horn if it was a good horn. I think they did like variations of long, long, short, long for the most part. I don't remember any having like a drastic departure from that where it was like something way different. Now I've got videos that I made back in the early 90s of different trains, and they weren't doing it at all. You know, they weren't doing long, long, short, long. Some were, some weren't. So I think for the most part they did. They just may have held on to it really, you know, for a long time, or kind of quilled it or whatever. But I do. I absolutely remember some guys, like, you'd have these little private farm crossings out in the middle of nowhere that you never ever saw anyone there. Right? They're more like crossings for a farmer to get across the tracks between fields or whatever, you know. I can think of a few. I can think of a few of them on the Lineville sub down in this place called Phillips Flats, where it's a really flat area in a valley, and there's a bunch of fields down there and stuff like that. I think they cut a lot of hay and stuff down there. And, you know, when they would go over those crossings, it was basically like, you know, something like this. You know, like that. Like very brief and you know, not much to it. Definitely not your traditional, like, long, short, long. I mean, it is, but they're not really holding it or just barely kind of hitting it, that sort of thing. That was really common. I knew of a lot of guys that did that, like those country farm crossings out in the middle of nowhere. They didn't put too much into them. Some did, some didn't, you know. And you know, like, thinking back on it now, if you went through a crossing and God forbid you hit someone and you're doing a non-traditional pattern, like long, short, long, I don't know how much that would matter as opposed to just purely blowing the horn. As long as you're blowing the horn for the prescribed amount of time before the crossing, because, like, no one at a road crossing is going to roll up to it and be like, they're not doing long, short, long, so I'm safe, I'm going to go. You know, it's never going to go down like that. They're going to hear the horn regardless of whatever it's doing and just know that, hey, something is coming. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that now. I wonder if there's any engineers out there that have had a bad outcome at a crossing and like weren't blowing the horn the prescribed way and got in trouble. I don't know. As long as, it seems like to me, as long as you're blowing the horn some way, whether you just wail on it continuously one time or do the pattern, like, to me it shouldn't matter, you know, as long as it's being blown. But like I said, I don't know much about anything, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised. She's running so good. Like, she's pretty consistently on 50. I kind of felt like with her being less than a mile long, there might be some spots where she really takes off, but so far so good. They're going to go by the chicken plant up here. That's an interesting job. We need to do that sometime. We need to do a chicken train. Especially this one. This one's kind of interesting the way it's set up. Yeah, this one is interesting because it comes in loaded from the north and you have to go south and run around your train, and then you have to back in and do all that stuff. I never did it. It's something that I never even saw them do it. I know they were out there doing stuff, but I didn't witness it myself. The other chicken place up there, it was kind of the same way. It used to be a place you had to back in, but that one they've got it modeled where they changed it up where you could just pull in. It's like a siding. out this sag right there. I always hated chicken trains. We did one up. It's one up on the Lineville side in Talladega. There's a place up there that did chicken feed, and it was, I don't know, it was always a pain. It was a long day. It just wasn't my favorite favorite train to take up there. And it was a pain going down in there, and we've talked about this before. It was like really steep into the dump loop. And so you couldn't take the entire train. I think it usually ran about 60 cars, give or take. You couldn't take the entire train down to the dump spot at the plant because it was so steep. It was really hard for the engineer to be exact as far as spotting it up over the grate to dump it out into. So you'd stop short of it up on the hill, and then you would cut 10 cars off. You would go down there, you would dump those 10, you'd get them all empty, then you would back up to the train and grab 10 more and go down in there and dump those 10. So it was a lot of handbrake stuff that you had to do, that sort of thing. You kept doing it until you emptied the whole train. I never emptied the whole train down there. I think I only ever took it in there and you dump a few cars and then you go dead. And that was basically it. And it seemed like with that train, it wasn't very hot. Like you got put in the hole a lot and you sat around and waited and that sort of thing. Yeah, coming by Ambrose. This is where in real life, an engineer of mine got a knuckle right here on a 4,400 foot military train. We're going south. This is during the war in Afghanistan. We're going southbound. We came around this DD up here. We got popped by it for dragging equipment, because those military trains are notorious for that because of all the chains that they have on them and stuff like that. So we got popped by that. We stopped in Ambrose. I got the chain taken care of, took care of a few other issues. We had some equipment. We had like a what do you call those things? Like a Hemmet. They had a door open, and so when I was taking care of the chain that was dragging, this lady stopped. She pulled off on the side of the road. She's like, "One of your trucks has a door open on it." And so I found it, I shut the door on it, and yeah, this is the DD that we got hit on here. We got going, we got moving, and my engineer, this is a good example, knocked off the brakes and then waited a long time before they opened up the throttle. So what happened, basically, they weren't pulling on it when they knocked the brakes off, and we're kind of sitting over a little hill there. And so what happened was the brakes knocked off, the bottom started rolling backwards, and they opened up the throttle and started pulling on it, and the train basically, if I can show you, the train basically went like that. The back end going backwards, the head end going forwards, and we got a knuckle. It wasn't too far off the bottom, believe it or not. It was probably only about 489 foot flats off the bottom, something like that. So, yeah, we got a knuckle there. So that's why, you know, I'm really liberal with it in game because it is just a game. But generally I pull away early. Like in game, it doesn't hurt anything. Is it always 100% accurate? Maybe not. Or correct, but you know, we've pulled pretty early and hard on Tehachapi in some of those videos, and you know, traction motors didn't overheat. You know, we're good. It didn't do anything. I do though. I remember that knuckle, like vividly remember that one. It was, I looked out, I had an old timer that had an old pickup truck, and he drove me. He helped me get, or he didn't help me get a knuckle, but he pulled up beside the engines there in Ambrose, and I threw the knuckle on the back of his truck, and he drove me to his house where he knew the knuckle was behind his house, where the train separated, because he had retired from the Southern Railroad as a conductor with over 30 years of service, so he knew exactly what went on. And he even told me, he's like, I know what your engineer did wrong. Like, they were having a family reunion in their backyard, in his backyard, and so they sat there and basically watched the whole thing. They watched the cars roll backwards and get the knuckle, but luckily, yeah, he drove me down there to it, so it made it really easy. It's just one of those compounding things, right? Like, you get hit by the DD, and then you get that taken care of, and then you have another issue, and we're already kind of blocking the town, and it was like 3 in the afternoon, so school was letting out, and then we pull like 2 car lengths and get a knuckle, and it went downhill from there. Because you gotta think, those 89-foot flats, especially on those military trains, or just military trains with nothing but the 89-foot flats, there was a tremendous amount of slack in those things. So I guess all that, I think when we stopped too, we stopped bunched because when we got hit by the DD, I remember telling my engineer, I was like, if you can, let's leave this last road crossing in Ambrose open so we don't completely block the entire town. And I want to say they got some air and then put it in dynamic, and so the train stopped bunched up right there. You know, we stopped bunched up, and so that definitely didn't help in that situation. They definitely should have pulled on it way early, I'm thinking, to start pulling that slack out as the brakes are knocking off. So what happened is they waited, you know, and then all that slack that we bunched up, the brakes knocked off, and it just all went backwards down the hill. And the head end, we had 2 AC 4400s on the head end too, so that didn't help either, I'm sure, because those things weren't going backwards. They were going to pull forward no matter what. So it was a bad day. And then we get down to, other than that, like, we had a good trip. I don't remember stopping a lot on that trip. I don't think we went in a whole single time. I remember we had to wait at Fitzgerald for, the 121 was ahead of us. They did a crew change. So we had to stop for a bit and wait on them, but I think we kind of ran right behind them, and then so we got the knuckle, we got the DD and the knuckle at Ambrose, and then we went down to Bowling. We had to go in the hole. We had to go in behind someone else down there, and for whatever reason, our lead AC 4400 started giving us like I think it was like a locked axle indication or something, and it's just, I don't know why, it just did it, and it was consistent after it started it. So and then my engineer was like, well, we need to stop and look at it. And I was like, no. I was like, just pull it into clear, like, let's get in the hole, and then we'll deal with it. Like, and we wound up going dead there. We didn't even, like, they had a fleet of trains coming out of Waycross, like 4 or 5 trains coming through. So yeah, we didn't go any further than that, but it turned out we didn't have a locked axle. I don't know why it was given that indication, but we were good. It wasn't an issue. All right, we're on a descent to Oysterfield. We're Oysterfield. What's going on up here? Why? Huh, okay, so he hasn't lined us through Oysterfield yet. We'll have to remember to get Otto to put us in the hole at Fitzgerald as soon as we get by Oysterfield. But we need to dial him up. I can't forget that. Let's dial him up. We'll tell him we need to go in the hole. And that way we can make our set out. I don't think I actually needed a notch out right there. I think we probably should have stayed in it. Yeah, let's go back in. Looks like it might be a little bit of a dip right here, a little sag. .55 here. We won't have to worry. It's a 60-mile-an-hour railroad down here, so we don't have to worry about anything until we get to Fitzgerald 25 up there. Ooh, that was a rough curve right there, man. Kind of rocking going into it a little bit there. I like that though. I think there should be more rough spots in the track. Should be able to start coming back out of the throttle. Yeah, I got to clear the south end of Oysterfield. Oysterfield. A little bit of a knot here on the south end. And clear on the north end of Oysterfield. Try to think where that 25 starts around Fitzgerald. Does it start around the holdout? I can't remember if it starts before or after the holdout. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I really don't want to look at it either. I think we're just going to, we'll just go with it. Like, if we do 25 a little early, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, I think what we'll wind up doing is just taking this thing to Fitzgerald, and then in the very next video after that, we'll make the set out. Will take us a bit to get up there. All right, as soon as we get by him, let's get ready to call up Otto and tell him to put us in the hole at Fitzgerald. We'll get off this OS a little bit before we do it. That way he has plenty of leeway to make his decision. I think that should be good. Tone him up. request next siding. So if he does it, I've never done that before. I've never requested the next siding. Siding available, proceed on signal indication. Nice. Distance to Fitzgerald holdout. So I think after that is when we're going to start slowing up for our 25. We'll see. Yeah, I've drawn a complete and total blank. Look at the hogbacks up there. You see the top of that hill right there, and then way off in the distance, you can see the top of the next one there. It's pretty cool. I remember like sitting in a hole of different, like Lily, sitting at Lily and meeting 724 one day, and you could see them going over the hogbacks. It's pretty cool. Oof, bad on my part. Big slack running. Yeah, big time. We got a little bump there. Hopefully no one in the bathroom got the blue water splash out of that. Got another crossing here. Yeah, I was trying to see if I could scope out that 25 up here. We'll kind of ease along a little bit. Yeah, I can picture it southbound. It's right there around the crew change. In the middle of the siding there, of the crew change over on the left, the little yard office there. It's right around it. I can't remember if it's just north of it. I think it's just south of it. I think I can see the holdout peeking up here. That throttle wise, number 2. Come by Southern Veneer here. All right, where is that 25? There's a holdout. So it looks like they're loaded and ready to go. Some of these cars are destined for there. I don't see the diamond board. I don't think we missed it. And I feel like if you want to learn these routes, like sometimes you just got to run it and guess. I kind of feel like I'll remember it after this for sure, because I remember, oh yeah, I was really fuzzy on that. I wasn't sure where it was at. We went up there looking out, and then you realize, oh yeah, well it's right there. Yeah, it's not where I thought it was. It's got to be up here a little bit. So it's north of the holdout. Right, it's north of the holdout. We didn't miss that. We got stuck brakes back there, but I'm not going to worry about it because we got to stop up here anyway. So 1.9, 2 miles away. Wow, we're way off. I really thought it was down here close to the holdout. Yeah, we are way off. Yeah, when we stop up here at Fitzgerald to make that set out, I mean, we'll straighten our stuck brakes out up there. It's not going to be an issue. We'll draw them down tight. I almost kind of wish we didn't have the ability to see that in the graph. Just took another notch. I didn't even touch anything. Like, it just did it. It's probably because I was like right on the edge of hitting it, and it just went on and did it through light jitter, maybe because it is kind of jittery. It's a bit jittery. Go by the Czech Cola place up here. Homer Beverages. I think is that it right there? I think that might be the 25 right there starting in that curve. Yep, that's our diamond board. Okay. Yeah, definitely not where I thought it was. I was thinking it was back around the holdout for some reason. I'll drag it through here a little bit. There it is. Yep. All right, 25 on a diamond. Come by Chip Bill up here will be our distance to Fitzgerald. Should have an approach if he's got us lined in. I didn't even pay attention when we looked real fast. Or peanut mill, not chip mill, peanut mill. Oh, just go. It's the cop. We just got us a cop. How rare is that? It's happened. This happened. There's that video on YouTube of the police cars waiting at the road crossing for the train to go by. I guess it's on a double main or something. And as soon as the rear end of the train went by, the deputy went around the gates and got clobbered by one going the other direction. He wasn't hurt, but or not badly hurt, but either way. And we did have our approach back there distant to Fitzgerald, so we will be going in a hole. This is a non-bonded siding, so we'll go in on a restricting. I'm wondering if we'll clear up on the south end before we get to that switch on the yard, or the switch going into the yard up here. There's a beautiful Fitzgerald Depot. Here's the thing we always got to remember: these non-bonded sidings we get restricting in, like the approach is your distant approach on the distant. You could very well have a stop up here. You may not be lined in, so you can't always assume that that you're going in. Luckily, we're only going to be doing about 15 anyway, so really, like, it isn't that big of a deal. Alright, there's our restricting. So we are lined in. We're good to go. So for those that aren't familiar with it, non-bonded siding means that the dispatcher has no occupancy for the siding itself. Back in the old days on the old CTC machines, either they would hang like a tag on it to show that there was something in there, or they have a little light that they would manually flip that would give them an occupancy light, but it didn't have any detection on the siding. So it was all done manually. You could very well have something else in there. You know, there was no guarantee. You had to go in there looking out. There, I got restricted. We're restricting into the siding. I remember when I was a kid, and Dad and I used to rail fan, even on up into the CSX days, those were actually yellow. I think I've got one on video of a local going into the siding on the south end of Roanoke, and he had a yellow restricting going in, or restricted. And then later on they changed them to the lunar white, but that goes all the way back to the old school ACL, SEL stuff. I didn't count that off to see if we were going to clear up back there. We don't have anything ahead of us to meet. We don't have anything behind us, so like it's not that big of a deal. I need to set up some trains on this one. I've done the needles spawn point on the West Coast stuff. I did needles. I did Fresno. I think that's the only two I've done. I need to do the Alameda Corridor. I couldn't think of it. Alameda Corridor is definitely one I need to do down there. San Diego side. Everything on the southeast. Pretty sizable pickup here when we come back through. Yeah, unless, well, those are loaded, so those are outbound. I'm not sure about these tanks. They could be in or out. Ending, right? Just go in Georgia Pacific, Palatka. Somewhere in Baldwin, Tampa. On the older tag. Okay, yeah, these are all outbounds. They're all empties. We do have some clear tracks though, so we can set these out in the yard. If not, we could definitely set them out over in the P patch if we had to. But we'll stop short of this crossing here, and then the next video we'll pull down, set them over, grab our train, and then we're good to go. Fitzgerald Yard used to be called Westwood. Back in the day when it was the Atlanta, Birmingham, and Atlantic. Atlanta, Birmingham, and Coast, it was Westwood. This whole little area was called Westwood. This wasn't technically Fitzgerald. Later on, it became Fitzgerald. It was Westwood Yard. It was the yard on the AB&A. Had all their shops, everything that all the major stuff they did here. We got some pictures of the yards back in the early 1900s. Pretty cool. It's got a bunch of wooden boxes in it. And there we go. Good enough. Draw them down nice and tight. Wonder if we still had those stuck brakes or those. Yeah, we still got them back there. Yep. Sure do. Either way, those will resolve. Center reverser. Let's dim our lights. And let's do infield. There we go. All right, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like down below. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, or just say hello. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.
No, big cat. No. Stop.